way, Felicia Macdonald, she is, let me give you her exact title, VP of Strategic Communications and Public Affairs at Thinx. And of course, obviously this is something, you know, I know you guys do a lot with video. So talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think as everybody knows, like broad awareness right now and just getting that job done is much, much harder. And one of the really special things about Thinx is actually being able to, you know, show and tell. You know, that was one of the insights that we found is one of the most important in terms of product education. And what better way to do that but how-to videos. So I would say how-to videos. I voted right before you let me into the conversation that is actually the one of the ways along the customer journeys that we are really enhancing that shopping experience. You know, this is something where we want people to feel very comfortable with what they're trying and being able to actually see how it works and have, you know, an engaged person who they trust or whose advice or reputation and referral they would actually go off of to make a purchase is really powerful. So the how-to videos through a number of different social networks is a really powerful experience and tool and technology for us.
Yeah, no, and let's see what other people are thinking. But I have actually a lot of people I'm speaking with have mentioned that as well. So do we have our poll results, Ryan? Yes, we do. All right. Oh, wow. Chatbot, not as much as I thought it would be, only 10%. The big one is the conversational AI at 20%. Oh no, how-to videos. That's the big one. Just like Felicia, you were saying, 60%. So that is definitely something we're seeing a lot of. In-app messaging is pretty good. It's 30%. And then just none of the above for 20%, which I'm surprised is so many, you know, that seems like a higher number than I would have expected. It seems like everyone is trying some sort of tech in some way at this point. But there you have it, those are the answers. But the how-to videos, you were right on target there. All right. Well, Felicia, I'm going to leave you to it because I don't want to cut into any more of your time, and you can take over the panel for everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and introduce everyone, I believe. So joining us today for the Breaking Through the Noise panel is Sheila Conlon, Director of Digital Marketing for Evereve, Laur Fiatoa, Director of CRM with Helix Sleep, and Sean Pate, Brand Communications Officer with Zenni. So I think a really great group of folks. I hope they're all on. Hi, everyone. Let's give everyone a moment to be in the chat. I see Sheila.
Hello.
Hi, Sheila. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
Oh, good. I'm just looking for Sean and Laura. I don't know if you see them.
I do not.
Okay.
Hi, Felicia. Just to let you know, we're looking for Sean and Laura right now, so they're not here yet.
Perfect. So it's not something I'm missing.
You're not missing anything.
All right. Well, we'll sit tight for the moment. But then I'll just go ahead while we're
just get started. And sorry, I didn't mean to pop in there. But technical difficulties are norm these days. So just you guys start chatting, and then when they jump in, you can continue with them.
Par for the course. So we'll get going. Thanks, Sheila. So then, you know, I think what we want to try to do today is uncover and unearth a few of the things that we've all learned in the last year and a half in particular. So let's think about how that year has impacted what we've all been doing in terms of approaching our marketing and the changing dynamics, you know, brought on by the pandemic, of course, and then just how that's changed customer behavior. Not to mention the, you know, compounded by post iOS 14 world and, you know, new D2C entrants among us and those who are typically brick and mortar like Evereve that have been transforming into D2C. So this is a great one to start with you, Sheila, on. So I'd love to hear how you're coping and then also how you're rethinking and thinking about your approaches to retention and attracting new customers. You know, are you finding those things to be working together or at odds with one another in any way? So Sheila, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. And yeah, I mean, as you said, Evereve is definitely one of those more traditionally bricks and mortar brands that has been transitioning to direct to consumer over the past number of years. So we've been operating our ecom channel for about 10 years now. And we also have a styling box service, Trendsend, which has been operating for about 6, but neither of those was really counting for a particularly meaningful percentage of our revenue or as an acquisition engine until the last several years. So it definitely feels like we're still in those beginning stages compared to our digital first counterparts. We're now at the point in our digital sales where it will likely surpass retail within the next year. So throughout the first year of the pandemic, particularly when all of our 100 stores were closed in the spring of 2022 or 2020, our primary focus really was on retention. So retaining our loyal store customer base. The challenge that we had first and foremost was that our brand is really known for the styling experience that we offer in store, as much as it is for our curated assortment. So creating a digital experience that mirrored that magic that we've unlocked in stores was not going to be easy or quick. So we really had 2 options, either trying to take a digital approach to recreate that dressing room experience on site, or similar to, it sounds like what you did at Thinx, was to create real styling experiences or how-to videos essentially with our actual stylists. So what we ended up doing was the latter, and we created a sort of TV series, so to speak, called Evereve TV, which is a suite of styling shows that are hosted by our stylists. So either in store, we also have our chief creative officer and our director of trend that offer solutions to her via video in our social channels. So that was both wildly successful online, as well as once our stores reopened again, it was really great at driving store sales. You'd often hear that a customer would come in holding her mobile with, you know, every TV video and say, I want everything that Heidi's wearing, which is just amazing to hear. So, and as far as acquisition goes, you know, it's obviously been much harder and more expensive through paid media with the degradation of third-party data in Facebook and display networks. So, you know, while we do have some success still with prospecting audiences, we are still doing that. We have really pivoted that strategy from pushing out our message to pulling in more qualified prospects who are already a little bit further down that funnel. So for us, that means working with influencers whose audiences are similar to ours, as well as working with a few new partners in order to test into potential new markets. And then we've also been working really closely with Google and Pinterest through shopping. So where we can really capture those mid-funnel product searches. So that's, I do not find they're necessarily at odds with each other, but both are definitely very challenging at this point. But we've been able to find ways to be successful still.
Amazing. And I love the contextual way that you guys have been doing it. That is really so interesting. Yeah. The insight and takeaway. Hi, Laur, welcome.
Hi guys, sorry about that. I was like, I know there's going to be technological issues, and then of course there were. I think I jinxed myself, but I'm really sorry. I'm really happy to be here though.
Welcome, no problem. We're still waiting on Sean, so we have a little bit of time. So we're just on that first question that I know we all talked about when we were chatting earlier, but wanted to just hear, you know, what you're thinking about in terms of the efficiencies around retention and attracting new customers. I know you had some really interesting data points and anecdotes to share, and just how you're coping over the last year and a half.
Yeah, I think that, you know, even outside of COVID, just the amount of growth that we've seen has put like a refocused energy on retention. You know, when you're a new startup, you're really trying to like gather as many new customers as possible at the lowest cost possible, of course. But I do find that as we've grown laterally with our other brands like Birch Living and also Allform, which is our modular sofa, we have more of an opportunity to cross-sell, and that really put a refocused energy on retention. So in doing so, we really built that whole department out, which didn't even exist 18 months ago. So that was something that was definitely a really strong focus for me. And, you know, we look towards the diversification of our acquisition channels as opposed to just really doubling down on the things that have worked in the past in the last 18 months. And in doing so, we started to look at some kind of offline medias, you could so to say, like podcasts or influencers and specific like YouTube channels. So I think that that's kind of been the two-pronged approach that we've had as we're trying to really scale up most recently.
Amazing. So, and you know, I think that's interesting. We also, you know, sort of have this insight around this growth and really starting to build the capabilities that we needed to handle that growth over the last 18
Right.
months. It wasn't exactly necessarily there right before the pandemic hit and everybody was on, shopping from home. But so while, in the last 18 months, we are, trying to figure out our tech stack and get it in order. How did you both think about reallocating your resources and initiatives to handle that growth? What are the other sort of textual and contextual strategies that you put into place? Sheila, why don't we go back to you?
Yeah, definitely. So, obviously, as we move further into this post iOS 14 world, from a technical perspective, we've prioritized some of those MarTech solutions to help us get our customer data in a good place and to be able to leverage that. But as a non-digitally native brand, we have a little bit of a longer road to go on that one. So while our data teams are working on moving forward with those initiatives, we've really been able to take a step back to more of a classic marketing, which is, focusing on the content and really elevating that. So we manage all of our content in-house. So we've been able to elevate our own still images, create a lot more video assets, as well as building out our on-page content to help us with organic as well. So that's been really important as another way to acquire. So as I said, we create all of our own content in-house. This is an area that we were able to tackle and iterate on quickly. The improved creative and content has really helped us in the present by increasing our click-through rate in our prospecting campaigns, knowing that those are being degraded somewhat. And then it's also allowed us to test into new video formats and help to keep our social audience engaged via Evereve TV, like I mentioned before. So, building out that strong internal creative team, it's been incredibly important, not only while we get our tech stack in order, but also to address one of the biggest challenges that we've had with this growth, as well as, the doubling down on that with the COVID-related supply issues, are that our products are selling out so fast, which sounds like an awesome problem to have, and it is in some ways, but ultimately, our styling expertise is so well known and well trusted within our audience that anytime we put a product in an ad, it's gone immediately. So you can, it's sold out within probably less than a week. So that results in us needing to turn over our creative so much more frequently. So by having those assets available at a moment's notice and the capabilities in place and processes in place to iterate incredibly quickly, it's been invaluable to keep up with those frequent changes, and ultimately deliver on our customer promise and a better experience to prospects and existing customers by not directing her to a product that's sold out.
But that's an incredible challenge. The supply chain too. I think that's something that we're all sort of seeing is becoming consistently.
It's persisting. It's persisting.
Rampant issue continues on and gets worse every day. You hear a new story about it. Laur, let's go to you and hear about how you're tackling the growth.
So I think that, we're in the furniture space, the supply chain, we're now experiencing it as a company. We're trying to move offices and we literally cannot furnish the office. We always joke that we're one of the only furniture companies that's still shipping in 7 and 10 days. But yeah, I think that's a very good point as far as making sure that you're very nimble and being able to kind of respond flexibly to those changes that happen, both on the operational side, but also on the marketing side. And one of the things that, we've really done in order to stay nimble as we've grown, as a small startup, you're able to make decisions very quickly, but as we've grown, that we have to kind of keep that same mentality and that scrappiness. And one of the things that we did that really allowed us to free up a lot of money where we could allocate in other places was pulling off of Facebook, which I think is still a very kind of taboo thing to say. And, brands are built and they die on Facebook, back in 2016, 2017. And we just found that it wasn't very incremental. And then that way we were able to reallocate to more expensive investments, such as higher level podcasts, like I was mentioning before. And that was one of the things that we really started to leverage, as well as affiliate marketing and starting to really pay to play in those spaces that were getting more expensive with kind of the reallocation of that money. And then the other thing that we did that I think at our current stage is kind of something that is definitely something to consider is staffing accordingly. And so we really started to look at how we were staffing our teams and making sure that we had the people resources available to really address and also kind of combat any slowdown for our growth from that perspective as well.
Thank you, Laura, and welcome, Sean. Thank you for joining us. We are, just in the middle, so it's actually we have a great amount of time left to hear your perspective too. I'm actually just on sort of that second question that we were probing around about, like how you've potentially dealt with the growth over the last year. Were you prepared for it, or did you have to institute any new strategies to try to handle for it?
Yeah, well, we've been fortunate, and let me just apologize for being so late. My time zones got confused, I think, on the booking. So I'm glad I caught you guys in the middle of it. Zenni has been very fortunate, I guess, byproduct of the pandemic is that people have had an opportunity to spend time, certainly at home, but online shopping, in some cases being the only place they could shop. And I don't think, that we've been setting ourselves up, not necessarily for a pandemic, but for really next level success in all of the brand marketing that we have been doing. Zenni has been really a successful business for 15 years, very quietly, not telling its story, focusing on acquisition and performance, but building a high quality product. That the word of mouth marketing was really driving the business. But you tend to collapse that potential after a certain amount of time. And the pandemic it came at a really opportune time for us, which is just very wholly ironic to say in a lot of respects, but because we had been brand building for the last, since about 17, we were situated where people were taking notice of us, knowing the brand was legitimate, having some understanding of it. But the Zenni experience is one that takes a little bit extra time. It's not the concierge experience that you get when you walk into an eyewear retailer. So you are in a DIY situation on Zenni, a very simple one, but one that does take, your time to shop. And some people get lost in the catalog and whatnot. We, of course, benefited by people having time to do that, and the need for very low cost products and supplementing people's lack of employment or insurance or, you name it. And that helped the company grow nearly 30% in 2020. We thankfully, and I give credit all to our ownership for building this company for scale, even as they were in a tortoise and hare scenario in our industry, Zenni being the tortoise, of course, but building for the potential that this business could have. So we were able to take the volumes that were coming in. We actually felt the pandemic at the very outset when our factories that are based in China were shut down for about 2 weeks. And so at the early part of 2020, we didn't know if we were going to have a business by the end of 2020, which was that scary. And China seemed to get their act together pretty quickly. They were able to resume production in March, just as the pandemic hit us. And then by April, we were growing by 90% year over year, just based off of, I think, the velocity and the momentum that the brand had created up into the start of the outset of COVID.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, it's interesting to think about the supply chain continues to enter into it, but what an incredible pivot and ability to keep growing in that scale. So I'm going to go back to Laur, and I just wanted to dig deeper into something else that you were thinking about for this panel. I wanted to talk about, as the increased attention on privacy concerns and tracking policies came about this summer, how have you been addressing these changes at scale?
So one of the benefits of being in the CRM space is that I pretty much see all the data that comes through any of our brands. And then something that I really love as like a data analyst, I would say that it's kind of a two-pronged approach, which is that we need to make sure that our current tech stack is clean and the data is accessible and it is in a place that is replicable and able to be addressed by anybody at the company. So I've been leading our project for the past 9-10 months at this point, in which we've done extreme due diligence to find the best possible way to reimagine our tech stack and kind of professionalize it in a way. You can't stay on Google Sheets forever. And we reached a point of influx where like all of our reporting was breaking and it became very cumbersome and laborious for us to be able to stay on top of our optimizations how we like to. And in doing so, we're starting to really lean into utilizing BI tools, having like analysts, being able to really think about the engineering of the data that we have. And that allows us to not only make sure that we're prepared for any of these changes that are coming and we know are coming, or changes in the future. And then the second piece of that is really providing new opportunities for zero-party data capture. And I was talking to you guys at the panel, I feel like I heard about zero party data in like February, and now everybody's talking about it. But it's true. And I think that because of the way our brand uniquely sits, Helix specifically, we have a quiz. And in that quiz, we're able to capture a lot of data about our customers that they're giving us in an exchange. And that allows us to not only understand them better and layer that on top of their behavioral targets and movements on the site, but it creates a kind of symbiotic relationship where like, you're going to give me the best mattress possible for me because I'm giving you all this data. And the more opportunities that we look for and other brands look for to create that space will really allow them to kind of lean off of these pixel-based targeting and things that they're getting from Facebook and third-party data and really lean into like what's happening on their own site. That's kind of the way we're addressing both of those things at the same time. I mean, ideally one would happen before the other, obviously, but things are moving very quickly. So we're really excited.
That's amazing. And, you know, going from mattresses, which are traditionally things that are purchased in retail to other clothes and Evereve moving from retail to D2C. Sheila, let's go to you. Also, by the way, Laur, I have a Helix and I love it. So I have had it for many years. I got it right when I had my first kid. So it was very like supportive. But Sheila, as an omni-channel brand, you know, serving your customers through digital and physical, your measurement challenges must be very different from digitally native like Helix and Zenni and Thinx, you know, who are operating exclusively through e-commerce. How are you approaching that measurement and, you know, attributing digital spend and ROAS across sales? You know, how are you thinking about increasing existing customer LTV?
Yeah. Laur, just so I don't forget, I definitely want to hear more about that for our Trendsend website as well. So remind me to connect with you after that, after this rather. But yeah, I mean, I come from a measurement background, so this is something that I spend a lot of time on in my role at Evereve. And I know, you know, measurement and attribution can be incredibly daunting problem to tackle. You know, do we use last click, first click, multi-touch, media mix modeling, rock, paper, scissors, you know, any other models really to understand the performance of our digital marketing channels? You know, not only that, for those of us who are omni-channel, how do we tie that digital marketing to store performance and vice versa? Especially, you know, as we've been talking about, our tech stacks are still in development. So my opinion on this is probably a little bit different than many and maybe not necessarily the most popular, but to me, it doesn't really matter. Because all of those methods are wrong. So no one touch point or marketing channel is ever 100% responsible for driving a sale unless the customer truly had no awareness of the brand and at the time of the contact and then instantly converts. So aside from walking past a store, that's incredibly rare. The approach that I take at Evereve is really twofold. So first, it's really about assessing that tactical level performance on a daily basis in order to develop actionable insights. And then second of all is sort of that higher level assessment of the entire marketing mix from an effective perspective. So all of the spend, all of the revenue, all of the customers retained and all of the customers acquired, regardless of channel, to make those real high level budgetary decisions. So just to talk a little bit more specifically about the tactical one, I do look at cost per order, CPA, and return on ad spend at a channel level, but also apply a few extra factors to help account for where in the customer journey that touch point falls and any meaningful difference between the performance of those customers interacting in that particular channel as compared to others. So not only is that more accurate than taking, you know, platform data at face value, but it also helps to avoid, you know, C-suite questions like, you know, ROAS and brand search is 30-1. Let's spend all of our money there. So there's a few factors and multipliers that I include are margins. So is a margin in a particular channel that a customer interacts higher than others? Is the lifetime value of the customer acquired in a particular channel higher than others as well? And I also apply an incrementality multiplier. So for a true prospecting campaign, that might be 100%, whereas brand search, which we know is very bottom of the funnel, it might be something closer to 10%. So, you know, I also look to include sort of a channel's halo impact on organic performance channels through order matchbacks to identify overlap between awareness marketing and performance. So obviously we have to make assumptions either way, but you know, we are able to do some lift testing to help validate those assumptions and then make iterative changes as we move forward. Sort of from a broader effective measurement perspective, quite frankly, it's very simple. It's very simple. I don't care what percentage of spend is allocated where, as long as we're managing to our overall CPA and return on ad spend targets. So if we spent X and we were able to make Y dollars and, acquire Z customers, fantastic. Because we know that our traditional marketing drives e-com sales and vice versa. By bundling it all together into that effective metric, we're really able to get that holistic picture of effectiveness and efficiency within our program.
All right, amazing. And it looks like there's a few questions in the chat, which maybe we can answer offline this afternoon. But there, maybe quickly, Katie has a question about what channels have the highest halo effect.
Sorry, Felicia, I'll just get the questions with them, and maybe there'll be some people who want to ask themselves too. So unless, did you want to end with any other questions? Or we
can. I did want to do one more with Sean, unless we're out of time.
No, well, I want to let other people ask some questions, but so let's just get a couple of these questions in, and then if you want to follow up with anything, Felicia, then you can have me do that. Okay, does that sound good? Perfect. Well, Jeff, I know, has a question. He wanted to know, how has Google and Facebook CPC inflation and lower supply across search and shopping ads forced you to pivot growth plans, especially headed into Q4 holiday coming up? And it wasn't directed at one particular, so anyone who wants to grab it. Anyone have an answer for that?
Well, I think for me, we, as I said, we're still doing some prospecting within Facebook. Unlike Laur, we have not pulled out of it. We are seeing, the CPCs increase, and we are seeing our efficiency go down a little bit, but ultimately it is still profitable for us. But we are pivoting some of that spend more to the contextual tactics. So we've started, and part of bringing all of our creative in-house this year and being able to level that up is we're now doing national buys of connected TV, and we are doing prospecting in podcasts, and then have also launched some contextual display campaigns. So I think, we're still doing it, but like the sort of traditional Facebook and Google, but we are, pivoting some of that spend away from the prospecting tactics that we were doing before and looking more towards contextual buys.
Anyone else want to add anything to that? Okay, well, we do have another question from Katie. She said, my company is struggling to hit Facebook and Instagram, Google CPCs. We used to get and can't scale to previous levels. How are you dealing with this, and what channels are working? Is anyone doing TV or radio, direct mail?
I can answer the latter part of that. Since I've been doing the light TV that we have been handling, and one of the major differences from Zenni, I think twofold, is the fact that we are not a retailer and we are not in a heavy TV rotation like some of our notable competitors in the space. So we have been dabbling in TV, though, to support our partnerships. So very much a la carte. We have partnerships, as you can see, with Chicago Bulls, San Francisco 49ers, the Boston Red Sox. So we acquire those rights, sometimes in light investment, unlike the Bulls, very heavy investment, but we do support those in their local markets with TV, some very specific creative around the 49ers. We have a partnership with George Kittle, who's one of their star players. We've also had great success in direct mail, but actually package inserts. And I've been specifically very excited with the home meal prep outlets, specifically Green Chef and the Blue Apron, and the other major one that's slipping my mind right now. But that has proven to be an amazing revenue driver for us, and dropping in just a discount on our blue light glasses over the last year. So that is found money, and certainly something that, as a swapping situation, has been very helpful. We do high volumes of those, so we're able to qualify in their realms. HelloFresh is the outfit that I was looking for, but they're sending out hundreds of thousands of meals per week. So it takes us about a month to even out with their distribution, but still has been pretty fruitful for us.
Did you guys, Sheila or Laur, do you want to add to that at all?
Yeah, I would say that, TV has definitely been huge for us, connected TV. I saw that one of the other questions that Katie had here right after was what has that biggest halo effect. So I would say that connected TV, and we're actually working with Mountain, who is a sponsor of this. Hey guys. It has been amazing. Like the amount that we see trickle down from like for traffic perspective through connected TV to our lower funnel channels has been fantastic. We also have upped our catalogs, which is interesting, like kind of counterintuitive to what you might expect in this day and age, but we are now sending more frequent catalogs and we're finding them to continue to be incremental. Our best customers are shopping even more. And then we're also doing prospecting within our most successful geo areas. And it's been great from both e-com and then also driving store sales.
Laura, do you have anything to add?
It's hard for me to add because we don't run on Facebook. I think that like a lot of the questions have to do with that. I would just say like in regards to kind of combating the competition, and should really just make sure you're pressing your Facebook reps for incrementality results and ensuring that the data that you're looking at is actually real data. As far as the catalogs, Sheila, I've also heard that many of our competitors like Parachute, they're doing catalogs and there's a lot of opportunity there. There's a lot of gray space. And I think that and adjacent to the direct mail piece is like something that the technology is really leveling up. One thing that we're testing right now is to do kind of programmatic direct mail through our ESP and creating additional touch points via, touch point 1 is email, touch point 2 SMS, touch point 3 is direct mail, and seeing how that impacts overall conversion. So we're really excited. We're partnering with Poplar. So we'll find out how incremental that is soon.
Great. Well, you guys were awesome. And I know there's a little technical difficulties and time frame difficulties in the beginning. So you guys were champs getting through it all. And it was really good information. So Sean, Sheila, Laur, I appreciate you guys doing the panel. And Felicia, thank you so much for stepping in. I know it was a last minute, so you saved the day for us to moderate. So I appreciate it.